So we want to be fast and we want to be better. So the first case that we're going to try and show you here, of course, that I use here brand and an intraoral scanner. Of course, it will change from brands and intraoral scanners, but the main idea is to how this flow interact in my daily practice. So imagine that I have a lateral incisor that I wanted to replace for a dental implant. So in this case, we have a lateral incisor that is completely fractured. I mean, there's no possibility of restoring it. And now we want to restore this with the dental implant. So the first thing that we do nowadays is, of course, to scan the patient. You can intraoral scanner with everything. This is an idea of the 3-shape intraoral scanner, but you can do with any other scanner. So the idea here is to transform this analogic patient into a digital patient. And so as you see in the picture, we're going to transform this into our an STL file. An STL file that can be read, it can be produced, it can be printed. So at the day of the surgery, when we extract the tooth, we already have a surgical guide that is milled or printed. It depends on what you have. Or normally nowadays, and I think in the future, 3D printing is going to be the state of the art. But in some cases, we can mill the surgical guide, and the accuracy is more or less the same. Of course, big question here is what will sustain in the future, and I think for sure 3D printing will sustain over mill because it was more accurate, faster, and have a better detail. So the first thing that we do is the lab sends us a surgical guide, and as this surgical guide goes in the day of the surgery. Now, this is a tooth-supported surgical guide. Of course, you have bone-supported surgical guides, and you have mucosa surgical guides. This one is tooth-supported. That is an advantage for this case. Now, this is a pilot drill protocol. That means that we're not going to fully digital all the way, fully digital implantology. That means that I'm going to use this surgical guide only to mark my first drill, and then send like creating a pass through the bone. So in the next drill, the next sequence, I already know what the implant is. Now, because this is a 3.3 implant from Straumann, I didn't need to go any further with my preparation. So I just went in and placed my implant with 15 Newton torque, and now my implant is ready to be loaded with a provisional restoration. Now, after the implant is placed, there are two types of provisional restorations that you can do. The first one is that I'm going to show you here. You can do a scanner, an intraoral impression with a scan body, and then you place it on the patient, you scan it, and you send it to the lab. So in half an hour, more or less, the lab can produce a provisional restoration that is ready to go. So the advantage of this is if you have an offset between your implant planning and your implant placement, then it's corrected on the prosthodontic level. It means that the implant goes in, you take the scanner, and then from the scanner, you take and you have your provisional restoration. So that's one way to go.